Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Connor James.
And I'm Chief Meteorologist Paige Noel.
Well, we begin tonight with the earthquake that shook much of the Cumberland Valley earlier today. Now, Paige, this was one of the strongest earthquakes really in almost the past decade.
Yeah, Connor, that's exactly right. Now, the epicenter of this was actually in Campbell County. I know you talked to people in the Cumberland Valley, but this was down into parts of Tennessee. So this happened in just Fincastle, Tennessee. You can see that there on the map once again. This is a 3.8 magnitude earthquake. Happened around 2:15, and like we just said, it was just about a mile to a mile and a half just northeast of Fincastle. Once again, that is in Campbell County in parts of Tennessee. Now, kind of if we look at this on the, that bigger scale, it's between that 3 and that 4, which is kind of that minor to light. So really just some noticeable shaking. Honestly, mostly no damage. I know we had reports, we'll get into that in a second, of maybe a little bit of some damage in parts of Campbell County, but I know for us here in the Cumberland Valley, didn't really see a whole lot. People definitely felt it. Definitely felt it indeed. Like we said, Tennessee really bared the brunt of that force, but when it came to us in Kentucky, that Cumberland Valley, one of the hardest hit areas. I actually talked with people out there who felt it and how they feel about it.
A few minutes after the quake, the first notification popped up.
It's a big jolt.
But after that, there were floods of Facebook messages as an earthquake rattled the Cumberland Valley.
I didn't know what was going on.
It shook security cameras like this one in London and stopped TikToks like this one, also out of Laurel County. Shannon Smith, a store owner there, felt it from the second floor.
I called downstairs and nobody in the office on the main floor felt anything. It was just upstairs that felt it.
Over in Knox County, as Darren West ate lunch,
Kind of like a vehicle had hit my house.
the 3.8 magnitude quake hit.
We don't get much going on in Artemis in our little community, so that's a pretty good little excitement for us.
Up the road, a calm evening on the pond preceded a jolting wake-up.
Well, I was in bed trying to take a nap. I didn't know what was going on. And I mean, when I say it jarred the windows, it shook everything in my house.
Nick Dozer's afternoon nap didn't last long.
To be completely honest, I thought somebody had brought a truck through my back door.
The quake happened in Tennessee, more than 20 miles from Middlesboro, but those shakes were enough to rattle one Whitley County man's flower shop.
But it was substantial enough I knew something had happened,
And while an earthquake of that magnitude is considered minor,
Nothing compared to like that today.
it left a relatively major impact on the people across southeastern Kentucky who felt it.
Now, like we mentioned, this is believed to be one of the strongest earthquakes felt in southeastern Kentucky since 2012. That one only about 0.5 higher. It was a 4.3 on the Richter scale. And while this quake did not do much damage in Kentucky, one family close to the epicenter in Campbell County, Tennessee, will have to repair their home at its very foundation. Mark Long said he bought this house because the area was quiet and uneventful. But Monday afternoon, the earthquake rocked his home to the core. Its epicenter mere miles from his house.
Pictures on the wall, they shook. One of them did fall off. It didn't break. There was some cracks that I've noticed that's on my foundation now that I'm gonna have to get hold my insurance company and see if they'll come out and take a look at it.
Now, thankfully, no one was hurt in this terrifying experience, though it is something Mark Long and his family will most certainly never forget. Well, now to some breaking news out of Leslie County. Dispatchers there tell us firefighters just arrived at the Family Dentistry Clinic in Hyden. We are told the building is showing a lot of smoke, but flames are not visible right now. Crews believe there is a fire in the back of the building, though. This is a developing story, and we'll continue to update you on our website, WYMT.com.
Well, it's just been a very chilly day here in the mountains. We've had to deal with a little bit of snow, the earthquake, a very busy day for us here in the WYMT Weather Center, but really that cold has definitely taken over. You can see that we reached a high of 23. That is 20 degrees below the average of 43. That low of 15 this morning definitely felt pretty chilly. At least we weren't anywhere near that record low of -18. That's back in 1985. Most of us still into about those lower 20s, some spots dropping into the teens. teens if you're looking into Logan, Pikeville, and even down into Wise. Now, the reason that we've stayed really into those 20s is because we've seen really those clouds throughout the afternoon. So we've kind of seen those clouds, and then we saw those flurries as well. Now, most of those have started to move out of here. Now we'll hang on to a few as we head into tonight, and those clouds will continue to clear as well. Temperatures dropping into about those mid to upper teens, and like we said, those clouds clearing. We'll hang on to a few flurries, but when are we going to start to warm up once again? I'll have that answer coming up in just a little bit.
Hopefully soon. Thanks, Paige. Well, a Floyd County woman is worried after finding what she believes to be a homemade explosive device inside her mailbox. Now, it happened Sunday in the Oxshire community. Lila Craig says she walked out to check her mail when she noticed a package and other items inside were charred. After a closer look, she said she saw a chewing tobacco can on the ground filled with what she believes to be tannerite.
They put it in pop bottles and take it out to the middle of nowhere for target practice. It makes a big explosion. You just don't think you're going to walk out there and find something like that.
Well, since finding the mess, she said she has installed security cameras to keep her family safe. Officials with Kentucky State Police Post 9 are investigating the case. If you have any information, you can call them at 606-433-7711. Well, two deer caused $5,000 worth of damage to merchandise at a London business. Employees at Maple Leaf Furnishings in London say around lunchtime, two deer ran through the front door and ran through the store. The employee working at the time, Kelly Smith, had her 2-month-old son at the store along with her mother and father.
It's just so good that no one was in here besides us. It was very contained, so we're just happy about that. So there was no one hurt.
Now, a deer was shot out the door by an employee's father. Thankfully, no one was injured inside. Well, a day of school for one Kentucky family turned into a nightmare for the mother. She had to be airlifted to the hospital after suffering serious burns. The woman was using a gas can to fill up a children's-sized motorcycle. She was smoking a cigarette at the same time, which caused vapors from the gas to ignite and set her on fire. Authorities are warning others about the dangers of smoking while working around flammable items.
Our advice would be to use common sense. Do not use any kind of flammable device when you're using gasoline or any kind of flammable liquid.
Now, fire does not need to come in contact with gasoline to start a fire. Vapors produced by fuel can ignite if they waft too close enough to any source of strong heat. Well, dozens with Kentucky Power and the American Red Cross spent Martin Luther King Day of service installing smoke detectors for free in Letcher County. This was possible by a $40,000 grant from the American Electric Power Foundation. This was the second of 3 installations planned. One was held in the fall in Greenup County. The goal is to install 1,500 smoke alarms by the end of June.
That grant also provides smoke alarms to any county that we have. We actually give them to the fire department and they install them.
Now, they plan to install the alarms in Pike County in May. The detectors have batteries that will last 10 years. A way to honor and celebrate the life of Martin Luther King Jr. Throughout Perry County, people gathered at HCTC to enjoy food and fellowship while remembering the civil rights icon. Aaron Thompson, a guest speaker at the event, says it's all about making tomorrow better.
I believe in continuous improvement. I mean, I can look back and I can celebrate history, or I can even look at history and say, I don't want to celebrate that. And that's fine, but it should only be to give me a baseline.
Thompson encouraged people to be the solution to the problem. A group of people marched after the event from the college into downtown Hazard. Well, Americans in other parts of the country paused to mark the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, remembering the civil rights leader with ceremonies across the nation. More than 50 years after Dr. King's death, the holiday is a time to look back, but also a call to action. Hillary Lane has more.
President Trump and Vice President Pence paid a visit to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington.
This is the day
Hours earlier, the holiday began there with music and prayer as members of the King family joined community leaders to lay a wreath.
We shall overcome someday.
At a civil rights breakfast, Reverend Al Sharpton used the holiday to present Bill Clinton with an award for excellence in public service. The former president told Americans to choose action over neglect.
Because there's plenty to do. But don't you doubt it, it can be done.
The holiday is a celebration of Dr. King's legacy, but it's also a day of service. Here in New York, local leaders are spending the day on, not the day off. The National Action Network hosted local officials at a public policy forum in Harlem.
Dr. King believed that we could all find a way together if we overcame the divisions of the past.
And at Pearl Harbor, the Navy is making history, announcing its next aircraft carrier will be named for World War II hero Dory Miller. He was the grandson of slaves, the son of sharecroppers, and received the Navy Cross for valor.
Dory Miller stood for everything that is good about our nation. His story deserves to be remembered and repeated wherever our people continue to stand the watch today.
It will be the first aircraft carrier named for an African American, a tribute timed for this MLK holiday. Hillary Lane, CBS News, New York.
In other news, an estimated 22,000 gun rights supporters gathered outside the Virginia state capitol angry over new gun restrictions proposed by Democratic state legislators. Many of those protesters came heavily armed, but the demonstration stayed peaceful. Skylar Henry was at Richmond earlier today.
Protesters brought a massive show of firepower to the Virginia state capitol Monday, angry over newly proposed state gun laws.
This is America. You will not take our guns. You know, if you think you want to take them, we'll have a second revolution.
Concerned about violence, Virginia's governor did ban weapons from the pro-gun demonstration inside Capitol Square. Sheriff Scott Jenkins from Culpeper County, Virginia, spoke at the rally.
I will choose to deputize thousands of my citizens to see that they're able to keep their lawfully owned firearms and not be disarmed.
Tensions have been rising since Democrats took control of the state legislature and proposed several bills to limit handgun purchases and require background checks. It follows a deadly mass shooting in Virginia Beach last summer. Gun owners came to push back. Michelle Thomas says she carries a gun every day.
I am a single female, and I think it makes a big difference in my life.
Michael Mumford is part of a group called Black Guns Matter.
You need to be prepared to protect what's yours at all times. And that's life. That's this life that we live in.
As gun rights protesters wrapped up their rally, those who want more restrictions on guns canceled their plans for a counter demonstration. Students from March for Our Lives, the group formed following the Parkland school shooting, slept inside lawmakers' offices last night and lobbied in the Capitol today.
With all of the threats and all of the terribly violent rhetoric that's going on right now, our main goal is not to engage with gun extremists today.
Both sides say they'll be back at the State House before lawmakers vote on the new gun laws. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Richmond, Virginia.
President Trump weighed in on Twitter this morning, saying Virginia Democrats are working hard to take away Second Amendment rights and adding to vote Republican in 2020. Well, for Kentucky shoppers, there's a possibility that shopping might be a little more expensive next year. Democrat Representative John Sims Jr. is sponsoring a bill that would raise sales tax to 8% starting January 2021. Now, if it passes, it would be the first sales tax increase since 1990. Well, coming up at 11, Australia's capital is dealing with a new weather event after it was pummeled, not with fire, but with hail. President Trump's impeachment trial begins with a clash over the rules.
And cold temperatures continue tomorrow, but a warm-up is on the way. I'll have those details coming up.